I've enjoyed the treat of having many mentor-like people in my life who are ahead of me on the journey. They knew more than me and readily shared their knowledge and wisdom. They believed in me and my potential and were willing to help draw me into the next season. Maya Angelou once said, "I've heard that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." I'm Jem Fadling, and it's time for I Can Do That. It is certainly true that my mentors taught and trained me, but just as Ms. Angelou stated, what I remember the most is how they made me feel. Although there have been many who poured into me throughout my life, I want to share with you just 3 people. First, when I was in college, I had the privilege of being trained vocally by a master teacher, Perla Warren. She was a beautiful Asian woman with a black bob and one gray streak that framed her face. She laughed easily and could be quite silly. But not in the classroom. In the classroom, we were down to business. Mrs. Warren had a magical touch. She took a group of just fine singers and moved us into a new realm of musicality and ability. Now, I don't remember everything Mrs. Warren said, but how did she make me feel? Seen, capable, believed in, empowered. That there was quality within me and it could be brought forth with practice and a skilled touch. All of this poured into 18 to 21-year-old me. She was one of the early foundation layers in my life. Second, when we first got married, Alan and I moved almost immediately from Northern California to Southern California. My first job was in the real estate department of Great Western Bank, which has now morphed into Chase Bank. My boss at the time was a man named Hal Clark. Hal was a very capable businessman. He, too, saw something in me, and he never lost a chance to help me grow and to shine. He continually offered me new opportunities and promoted me at every chance. I don't remember everything he said, but how did he make me feel? Valued, believed in, challenged to rise, stretched into my capabilities, and open to possibility and growth. All of this poured into 21 to 27-year-old me. He was also one of the early foundation layers in my life. And finally, when I was about 40 years old, I began my first spiritual direction training. In that cohort was a mentor named Ellyn Cowie. I always enjoyed her presence in the training, and a few short years after that, I asked her to be my spiritual director. Ellyn walked with me for 10 years as I made my way through midlife and all of its twists and turns. She gently and skillfully held space for me as I dove headlong into and out of the great undoing known as midlife. She said many things to me in that time, but how did she make me feel? Heard, seen, not rushed, important, held. All this poured into midlife me. She held space for some of the most intensive growth of my life. Now, maybe on another podcast, I'll share with you more of my mentors: Donna Dreer, Abbott David, Sister Anne, Chuck Miller, Paul Jensen, Dr. Ken Landau, and more. Yes, there are so many more stories to tell. My guess is you have a list as well. People who were there for you in critical seasons of your journey. And yes, you may remember some of what they said, but more likely, you remember how you felt in their presence, how you felt because of the way they viewed you or held space for you. My mentors' personal influence had a strategic impact on me. Who they were in my life became a part of the fiber of my being. There are a couple of ways to respond to this great goodness. First, we can be grateful. I'm so thankful for the people in my life who have made me feel valued, seen, and heard. And second, we can welcome God's invitation to reflect on our own lives. How are we giving back? Into whom are we pouring? Let's ponder this together. When people have spent time with us, do they feel used or loved? Do they feel diminished or blessed? Do they feel criticized or encouraged? Do they feel more like a competitor or a friend? One of my desires, and I know it's yours too, is to share at least as much with others as I've received. It would be such a shame to hoard all the goodness poured into me by others. And remember, this pouring out is actually the image of overflow. God pours into me until I am replenished and overflowing, and that overflow is then shared with others. We don't need to live or give from an empty cup. Fill and share. That's the way forward. Here's your I can do that for this week. Take a moment and trace back through your memory. Think of at least one or two people who held space for you and encouraged you to be all you could be. Say a prayer of thanks for them. Blessings to you as you find yourself in gratitude for your mentors and as you seek to pass on some of that goodness today. Remember, you're making your way forward one small, simple, and gracious step at a time. And if you want further mentoring, coaching, and support, please join us in Replenish. There is a wonderful and beautiful group of women already gathering. God is pouring into us, and we are sharing that goodness with you. So check it out at unhurriedliving.com/replenish. I look forward to seeing you there.